Let's test the calibration. It's a little off. Let's try redoing it. Oh, now it's not even, I see. It's so weird. I wish I could angle the eye tracker upward a little more. Okay. Let's see. It's better. Oh. Yeah, it's not so good in the corners. Well, it is what it is. Hello, people. Hello, people. I'm going to test the array bounds checking for a second because I still have on my to-do list that array bounds check doesn't work on x64, but I don't think that's correct. So x is 2 int, y is x of 2, print y. I think if I compile this, well, does this have test2? Yeah. Release compiler. Is it built? Is it built? Yes. .x64. Oh, that's not a meta program. Subscript is out of array bounds. Oh, right, because it's a statically known array. So we actually check that statically. Let's do this. Okay, well, that was our previous test. Okay. Array bounds check failed. Good. That was compiled with x64, I think. Yeah. So I can check that off my to-do list. It does not need to be done, and that is great. I must have forgotten when I did that. So how are people doing today? How are people doing today? I am doing pretty good, although my sleep schedule is going to get weird because I napped in the middle of the day. Or at night. I got up at 8:30, so we'll see what happens. Look up corner points. grids. Why did I move back to San Francisco? Because all the fun things I like to do are here, and because my company is here, and going back and forth between two cities all the time is really annoying. Corner point grids are how people did reservoir modeling in the 1960s under the influence of too much Fortran. People still use it because they're stupid. Okay. Great. Great. I'm glad you enjoy the streams. Charlie Kelly, aka Dayman. So, you know, some of the streams that I've been doing for the past week were attacking big things that I had wanted to do for a long time. And some of those were internal structural things and not visible to the end user, but there's something that I've wanted to do for a while that's very visible to the end user, which is to produce better error messages that tell you where things are. Like, for example, if I say hello sailor here, and that's not defined, you know, I get undeclared identifier hello sailor, and then when I say where the error is, it's just this weird line with an arrow that points to the end of this identifier, right? And not only for error messages sake, but also, you know, I've been talking about how we want to output files that your editor can use for highlighting or whatever. You don't just want to really know what character something ends at. You want to know the whole range, right? For something like an identifier, you could maybe back parse. But when you start talking about where does a whole declaration live, or where does a procedure live, what are the beginning and end points of the procedure in the file, you want a whole range. So you don't have to do all this nutty parsing on the editor side to reconstruct all of that. So I want to go into the Lexer and just basically, for right now, every token in the Lexer just gets one text file position, and that text file position happens to be the end of the token. So I'm going to go in and make it so that it has two positions for the beginning and the end. And I wonder, I could just have it be character index start and character index end, maybe, except for special. Well, we'll do line and character index start and end. Anyway, and then as stuff goes into the parser, it'll the location information for things will widen. You know, like if I'm a procedure call, then, well, I guess a procedure call you parse, but like, you know, a binary expression will combine, you know, the beginning position of the star and then the end position of whatever expression it's in front of, right? And you get an ever expanding range. So that information, first of all, can then be used by error reporting to display better. But then on top of that should be useful for lots of other things. Hopefully that makes sense to people. Is array add like pushback? Yes. The difference is array add makes sense if you read it, and pushback makes no fucking sense unless you know where the name comes from. Pushback. God, C++ is so bad at naming things. It's so bad at naming things. I'm going to push back a vector. Yeah. That's right. It is correct. Pushback makes sense on a double-ended queue. Which is what people are doing all the time? No, it's not what people are doing all the time. Yeah, exactly. Like, whoever does that. It's just silly. Okay. Why not append? Because it's longer. But, you know, names are not final and stuff. Names are not final. Okay. Like right now, all the array functions are prefixed by array underscore, but that's basically because we don't quite have enough namespace manipulation in the language yet. When we do, when you can import a library with your own, I mean, I guess you can now, but when we provide better ways of doing it, then maybe we don't prefix the functions, the names. All right. So let me just start doing this. I hope it doesn't slow things down. Let's, I'm going to run this and we can just look back at this later on. So our front end time is, 0.54, total time 1.08, 0.56, 1.09, 0.56, 1.13, 0.54. It's really only the front end time. So our front end time is like 0.55 to 0.56. 545. Yeah. So it's, roughly 0.55 to 0.56. If that goes up noticeably, then, well, it's a bummer. Is there a way to turn off the more detailed display where the error displays the code with the arrow, just with the first line with the error message and the number? I don't know. Maybe we'll make an option where you can do that. Why would you want that? You get pushback confused with pullbacks in category theory. Yeah. It's just astonishing that the person who named standard vector didn't know what a vector is, and or nobody else on the standards committee saw fit to fix that. It's like nobody on the standards committee knows or cares what a vector is, or that actual people use things that are vectors in actual code. Maybe standard vector was before the standards committee. Maybe. Array add, the way that array works is it has a count for how much memory is allocated. This is a very standard thing, right? So if there's space for an element, then you add that element without reallocating. But if you're out of space, then you reallocate more space and you copy the elements and then you add the new element. Okay. Okay, well, how do I record this stuff? Okay, so I have a line number, a character index. I have a num characters. Does anybody use that? I don't think so. I'm probably just setting that right now. Like, nobody outside Lexer looks at that. Okay, so we are going to set I'm going to have line number and character index be the start. And then I'm going to make two called line number end and character index end. And those are the end. Actually, you know what? I'm going to force us to do everything. All right. Okay. So we previously had set num characters. We're going to get rid of that. Boom. Okay. Get unused token. Identifier length. Why are we storing identifier length? It's been a long time since I've looked at this Lexer, and I didn't really know how things were going to work. Oh, that's why. That's why. Okay. So at the end of an identifier, so when we get an unused token, these are the start values. And then we're going to say those get set. There, in the case of an identifier. Here's what I can do to make sure that things are good. I'm going to initialize this to -1. And we have a thing called peak next token. And in peak next token, the parser calls this all the time. I'm just going to say assert tokens of this arrow line number end is not equal to -1, right? Because it's very easy for me to forget, because there's a lot of different tokens, different kinds of tokens that we might create, and I will undoubtedly forget some. Okay. So for example, we parse a here string. This is an interesting case. So a here string is, you say hash string, well, end, blah, 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 end. So what do I return as the range? Do I return this? I guess I return that and not that. Things that make you go, Things that make you go, Yeah, epilepsy game that we hosted today looked really good. I wonder how much is left in the development cycle for that game. Probably a lot. I guess there was only one level. Okay. Well, I'm just going to make an executive decision and say it's the contents inside. Because, hey, oh, wait, this, so, yeah, okay. Okay, so we eat until the new line, and then we have to set the line number start and end. We have to override the ones that got created. So we set the starts. And then at the beginning of any given line, it's like, I could be dumb and set this in the loop. Oh, right. Yeah, we could do it down here. Oh, this is... So cursor minus cursor start. Okay. It's a little wasteful, but we set the line and character number for the end of the token every line. Maybe there's a cleaner way to do it. So this has to be before we increment. We say result line number end and character index end. So current line number and cursor minus cursor start. Wait, is that right? Where's our outer loop? Outer loop, no. It's not cursor minus cursor start. How do we know the character index? Well, we say We go there and we say it's cursor minus cursor at start of line. Okay. These aren't really character indexes. These are byte indexes. But what are you going to do? Yeah, I'm 46. So yeah, I've been programming about 36 years. Okay. So that's that. You know, I'm just going to go through and do whatever. Like here, when we say make note, we already ate. See, this is weird. We already ate the leading at. Like when you have a note that says at whatever, so like what do we want the indices to be? I say we don't, let's not include the leading at. Start and end indices do not include. I don't know if that's the right call. I never thought about this before. It's funny because I've been planning to do this for like 2 years. But haven't really done it. This is note, not result. Note. Okay. Okay. Check for keywords. Make ident or keyword. So we parse an ident. Okay. So parse ident, didn't we already set the end? Yeah. So parse ident already has a start and end. So then when we do a keyword check, it gets those. Okay, making a hex float. That starts with like 0f blah, blah, blah. So I guess we have to look at the caller and decide. What I'm confused about is why, because it seems like we set the line number and character number at the start of the token all the time. So why when we parse does it end up at the end of the token? Probably because we're using, when we report a parse error, we're not using this information exactly. I don't know, we'll see. Because there's also, we could be reporting like what is the parsing cursor where the lexer is at instead of what's in the token. Okay, so hex floats is good action. We like hex floats. Basically, anywhere where there's get num characters, I'm just going to paste that, or set num characters. Like, I guess that was my way of putting the end range information in there way back in the day. Whoops, not note. You know, I'm going to be a good programmer. Am I going to be a good programmer? Like, instead, I could just rename setting the length. You know what I'm saying? Because I might want to do, yeah, you know, I might want to do something else. So, okay. So basically, anywhere we do this is already, like, I never asserted on that, so it's probably not complete. Let's leave those for a bit. So for example, like this doesn't call it. Okay, here, when we make a string, we're doing it after we have done all this. So let's do it at the beginning. See, this is annoying because we eat the... We only get here if we saw a single quote. Don't be a hero. Do it, YOLO. You know what I'm going to do? I'm feeling tired and lazy. So, rather than... No, let's go. Let's keep going. Let's not give in to the tired and lazy. So I'm just going to put these set num characters as, and then so I guess my end index is actually one past the end. So for a one character token, this is annoying. So usually I call this after eat character. Okay. Should be called after eat character. We subtract 1 from the starting index to account for that starting character. Not that we're ever going to care about speed of Elixir because it's so fast, nobody cares. But yeah. So results. What's it called? Character index start minus minus. See, the thing is, I can't do that. This is way more annoying than I want it to be. I can't do that because eating a character could put us on the next line. Maybe not. Maybe not, I guess, because that only happens if it's a new line. So a one character token. We'll see if it's a problem. I don't think it will be. Make one character. So I've got to make sure that's after each character. That's after each character. After. Before that, now it's after. After. Except double dollar is a 2-character token, jerks. Okay. All right. We ate the quote mark before this. Okay. So I'm just saying this, you know, like it would be faster to set this rather than to the correct value rather than set it, call this and decrement it, right? So it's kind of stupid, but structurally, if it's just easier to do it this way, then that's worth a certain amount, and it's not necessarily worth agonizing over. It's just, the way that I tend to approach these things is I like to get them in there and working, and then I get a feel for how it is, and then if I don't like how it is, then I refactor it. Okay. I don't even know where we were. What's going on here? Check for equals. Yeah. Okay, so yep. Well, we're just gonna make it work and then clean it up. Eat input due to block comment. All right, ignore that. Compose new token. What the hell? Okay, this is just our whole thing. This is just our whole thing. This calls all these previous things. Oh. What was I calling that? Why are we doing that twice? Okay, hold on. I forgot that I have a logical XOR. I've never used it. Okay, what am I doing over here? Custom operator. Okay. Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. So this set num characters is not right. Let's call it, instead of set num characters, let's call it set end of token. All right, so inline void lexer set end of token, and that's just going to say, token, what are you going to say? Token, arrow, line, number, and equal. Okay. And then because it's C++, we have to put this up here, I guess. I guess you have to do that even when it's inlined. I don't know. I don't care. I really... All right. So I probably goofed this really badly. Oh, wait. Right? Can't use that there. But we'll use it here. Okay. This won't compile. Line number is not a member of token. Character index is not a member of token. Okay, that's no surprise. That's other people trying to use this. So first, let's make the lexer compile. Wait, I want -2. Yeah, I guess I want -2. I don't know, bro. Maybe that means I messed up the logical XOR. Because that's the same thing. Well, let's see if it comes out wrong in the wash. Okay, anywhere where we set num characters. This is the same thing. All right. Okay, so anyone have any questions about that thing that I just lazily and very tiredly did? So now we just have to, go modify the places where people are trying to read this information because they're reading the wrong variable names. And then I don't know. Logical XOR. Look, if you have logical and logical OR, you might as well have logical XOR for completeness, right? I mean, come on. Come on, man. Like, why would you have bitwise and or an XOR, but not logical and or an XOR? It doesn't make any sense. Yep. It's true that I've never used logical XOR either. I sort of did it to be funny. Maybe we'll delete it at some point. I don't know, maybe I'll put it on the list now to delete it, because frankly, lately, I'm just in the mood to make the compiler as small as possible. I don't know. I don't know if we'll keep it or not, but it's on the list. Because I just made the compiler a few lines longer by adding these other things. We're going to have to get that space back somehow. All right. Okay. So our error reporting let's just get it compiling. Let's just get it compiling. We're just forcing ourselves to look at this right now, right? So what we're going to have to do is probably make report VA list take the start and end. Okay. I did the wrong thing there. All right. We're going to do that eventually, but we haven't done it yet. And let's get compiling before we do that. Yeah. Okay, oops. Oops. I'm sorry. All right. I guess we do the same thing. Whoa, what am I doing here? Oh God, yeah. This is some Lexer parser Heisenberg interaction right here. Right, so we don't have a plus plus and a minus minus, but people coming from C++ might type plus plus, and if they type something like plus plus x, that's a valid expression saying unary plus of x, even though unary plus doesn't frickin' do anything. So we detect that and issue a warning. Right, minus minus x also, if x is an integer. We could warn that it's redundant. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that one of the things I don't want to repeat is this weird, like the warning culture of C and C++ sucks, right? Like C originally didn't really have warnings. It was just if you step accidentally the wrong way, you get blown up by a landmine. And then eventually people were like, that's not good. Let's help people out. But the language spec allows all these things, so they have to be warnings and not errors. But then they gave all kinds of warnings on things that you actually want to do. So then you end up ignoring warnings. Or you end up being one of these totally whipped people who like changes their programming style completely so that they never generate a warning and treats warnings as errors. I don't think any of those things are good, right? So the idea here is we don't really have warnings built into the compiler. And if you want warnings, you do that with a library that uses a metaprogramming mostly, but we have some exceptions. So how many warnings do we even have? Well, the majority of warnings are temporary things. So like these are for people who already were using this type thing, and I added some warnings to say like, we're phasing this out. There's warnings on SOA because it doesn't exist anymore. I mean, that's not what this says, but that's the reason why. I don't know. So we've got, we've got about 14 or 16 warnings here, and many of them are going to go away. In fact, maybe all of them should go away. Like an unknown escape sequence and a string constant. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, they're much harder warnings than in C and C++. Right, you wouldn't see a warning if it's parenthesized. The code already checks that. Like that's why we were checking the character indices coming from the lexer, right? Okay. Can't believe it's Wednesday night already. What happened? What happened to the week? All right. What are we even doing? We're fixing these. So 3268. Do we use this? Starting line, no. All right, free line of code. Awesome, 4165. Last line number. Do we use that? Get scope last line number. Is that for debug info outputting? Probably. Oh, well, here. Dude, this goes back to when, like, I was trying to output assembly. Which, like, screw that. That was stupid. Didn't have enough faith at that time. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Okay. So I'm going to make a note that last line number probably needs to be computed a different way. Like, by the time we're done with this, you won't need a separate last line number variable because it'll, like, be on the syntax tree. But for now, we're just going to make it work. What? I thought I just deleted that. I didn't save the file. All right. Okay, so last line number is token line number start, character index start. Well, we'll just search for the variable name. We don't need to make a note. All right. That's interesting. I guess we're going to use a defer for this. I don't know. We'll have to investigate that. Yeah, all of this. So the real answer for this is just whatever the last statement was, we use its ending thing. Okay, 4296. Report parse error. I want a token. All right. Well, that's a thing. All right. We compile. It's always a relief to be compiling. Let's go back to our test program. Did I leave an error in there? I did. So we're still pointing at the end of the identifier, interestingly. It's a mystery why, but okay. So next, we're going to go into report VA list. And we're going to make it take a bunch of arguments. And if we don't have an ending, what do we do? Do we manually push character +1? Yeah, I don't know. We could pass -1s here to say it's like a single character thing. But we'll develop that concept later. That's a little more sophisticated. Might be too sophisticated for us tonight. Yeah, that warning is not generated by the... Sorry, I drank stuff the wrong way. That warning is not generated by the lexer. It's generated by the parser using information from the lexer. So when you see those two unary operators lined up like that, then we check to see if they're consecutive characters. How will your process be to figure out what syntax you want? We'll say, hey, how should the syntax be? Okay. Yeah, Steven Sausage Roll is a real good game. Real good game. Okay. So we are on ast going to put... All right, I did this in the wrong order. So we're not going to do this yet. We're not going to do VA list because many of the things, it's rare that we pass lexing into the error reporting. Usually we pass stuff from the parser. So we need information off the parser. So I'm going to say line number start ast character. Oh God. Okay, I just realized something. I already get really annoyed in the debugger having to type whatever arrow line number and whatever arrow character number all the time. Making those line number start and character number start makes it so long, it's going to push me over the edge and not want to do it. So I'm going to name these something much shorter, like line 0, line 1, and character 0 and character 1. And that's cryptic, and that's against my usual style. But in fact, I'm going to go super cryptic. This is counter to my entire personality. I simply don't write programs like this, but I'm going to do it today. All right. So you should try Topr, less aggravating to the ears. Look, man, it doesn't aggravate me. What am I doing that's counter to my personality? Cryptic single letter variable names with an integer attached. I just don't do that. That's like some 1970s C programming right there. Like, look at my variable names. Look at this screen full of variable names and tell me what is different. Well, I guess S also. That's the one time in the entire program that I do that. And it's in the same structure. Do I do anything to help prevent eye fatigue from staring at screens all day? No. I found that once we switched to LCD screens, I don't really get eye fatigue. Back in the old days when they were like CRTs and they were really flickery all the time, it was rough. And that's really when my vision degraded the most. So I'm not a fan of that. But LCD screens are not a problem for me. L1 minus L0 is the length, or C1 minus C0 is the length, if L0 and L1 are equal, right? If they're not equal, then who the fuck knows? Okay. Yes. Well, now every place that sets line number and character number is going to give us a compile error. Oh, not everywhere, because right here we have this problem. Copy location info, dest. Hopefully that'll get turned into fewer moves. Character number 12, 20, whoops. Okay, now we'll get them everywhere. See, this is just a great thing. This is the superpower of a statically typed language. Well, statically typed with pure lexical scope is you can just do this, and I don't have to rely on like a text search and missing things or accidentally hitting other variable names that happen to have the same name but are different variables. I just let the compiler give me my to-do list. It's like I'm saying, I'm just so lazy tonight. I'm letting the compiler do my job for me. Okay, 1159. Copy declaration. Why don't we call copy location info there? Something like that. Okay, we've got to do my technique. I don't want to scroll up every time, so we've got to fix the things at the bottom and work our way up. Because the things at the bottom are on the screen. x64 converter, line number. Is this for generating? Oh, this is for a panic. I see. That's cool. Somebody did that, you know. Somebody who is not me did this. That's great. I would normally think of this file as being more scary than that because, like, you know, it's just outputting a bunch of x64 assembly code directly, but I'm glad someone went in and did that. Okay, so that file is done. Type table, line number. Okay, we got to move all this out to the user. So we've got to go to our type info. Oh God, we're giving people S64s. Okay, usually okay, I need to get an opinion poll from people about this. Internally to the compiler, I'm assuming line number and character number are 32 bits. Because, okay, you could easily have a 4 gigabyte text file that you're compiling. But if it's 4 gigabytes all on one line, screw you, buddy, right? Like, put some new lines in there. And if it's 4 billion lines, then you're kind of asking for it as well, right? The thing is, that's my internal implementation detail. And the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want my data structures to be too bloated, right? Like, there's 4 of these things on every single syntax tree node. So you save 16 bytes per syntax tree node if you decide it's 32 bits instead of 64 bits. However, I have the question of, do I expose that to the user? Because this is like my API to metaprograms for the next 20 years, right? This is what people are going to be using. And so do I need to be safe? Do I add an extra 16 bytes to every type info and every exported AST node? Is the question. What do you guys think about this issue? Who cares? You will never see 2 gigabyte programs, even with auto-generated stuff. Even in 20 years. Is that true? Well, and it's not even 4 gigabyte programs, right? Or 2 gigabyte programs. It's a 2 gigabyte file all on one line. Or 2 billion lines in one file. It does seem excessive. Oh, someone's posted a straw poll. Why signed? Because it's easier not to make a mistake, and it's easier to not have to think about it. Add 16 bytes to every syntax tree node. Oh, it's changing so fast. No is winning, but a lot of people are saying yes. A lot of people are saying yes. This is not that far of a vote. It's so exciting to watch it change. If you didn't see that go by in the chat, here's the link up here. Do I print an appropriate error if those extreme cases happen? No. A lot of people are trolls. Clang uses U16 for line and character numbers. Are you serious? Like, I'm pretty close to line numbers that would break U16. 64-bit line numbers, 32-bit positions in a line. Is there a downside of adding the 16 bytes? Well, it's slower and it takes more memory. Wow, this is a very close vote. Actually. $60-40. I could go U32 and get the extra bit. So what happens when you compile a 100,000 line file in Clang? Okay, let's take this. So it's true. Okay, a 100,000 line file is not that big a deal. You could easily generate that today, as Pseudonym 73 is saying. So if we want this to be good for 20 years, let's say we could double that every 2 years, right? So that's 2 to the 10th. That's 1,000. So we could have a 100 million line file in 20 years, right? That's still not 2 billion, right? It can't be a compiler flag. That's not how this works. It's baked into the data structure. People are going to be serializing these or whatever. It's going to be in the file format. Like, whatever we pick here is for real. Will this ever be used for web? Who knows? Make it polymorphic? No. Do signed and reserve the right to change your mind to unsigned later. How big of a file might we generate in 2038? Why are you even wasting time thinking about this? S32 is enough. It probably is enough, but like, I don't know, is it? Is it really? Okay, people saying yes, 40% of people saying yes. So people who are saying yes, type into the chat a very good justification for your yes vote. Tell me the best reason why you're saying yes. So on the one hand, it does seem like a waste of time to think about this now. On the other hand, I wish C++ people just sat around and thought about this kind of thing at all, ever. I mean, I guess they do in their own way, but they think about the wrong things. If you care about the ASCII space, just store the byte index, not line number. That's not very good for editor use and stuff like that. Like, editors don't want to have to do an expensive conversion of byte index to line number. Okay, the only explanation for a yes vote that I've seen in chat so far is why have a limitation if you can easily avoid it? Which I guess is a reason, but the answer to that is, well, there's a performance cost, right? So that's the reason that's the reason to have a limitation. So the question is, should you quit your job at a big company or stay there to learn? If it's not challenging you, then you probably should quit. Because when you're 22 is one of the most prime of your life kind of times when you're really ready to learn. And your learning velocity, if you're in an environment where your learning speed is limited, you will turn yourself into someone who is not a top, fierce, fast learning, excellent programmer. I don't know how to describe. I'm not doing a very good job describing this. I've explained this to people before. Like when you're young, especially, it's really important to be in an environment where your learning is paced and not limited by you. If it's limited by the structure you're in, that's a problem. It'll make you not as good as you should be. Unicode thought 65,000 was enough until much later they realized they needed way more. Well, no, that's just Windows, right? Like nobody else took UTF-16 seriously. Unix thought 4 billion second timestamps were enough until much later they realized they needed way more. Yeah, well, perhaps the compiler will be used for 40 years, but we'll be on a subsequent version of the language at that point. How does this work if someone includes game data? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking there. Oh, you mean like include as a text file? Nobody serious would do that. Like, so in C++ you have to do that because there's not really a very common, better way, but we will have binary includes where you can just include something into your data segment. So, like we don't have a straightforward way to do that yet, I don't think, but we will. So if you were including game data, you just include it as binary. One good meta reason, if you have to do it later, you might be sorry. Yes, that is true. How big of a performance cost is it? I don't know, and we won't know for a while. How big is the performance cost for a large project? Well, I don't know. Can you measure the performance loss easily? Not right now. The thing is, the compiler isn't totally tuned for performance right now. I will say that the messaging when we looked in telemetry the other day took more time than I would like. It was like 10% of compile time or something. And the cost we're talking about here adds to the messaging cost. I don't know by how much. Maybe not by very much. What did I do at 22? What year was that? 93. Well, I was probably still in college a little bit when I was 22, but I was getting very upset about it and leaving because it didn't feel right to me. And then I got a job for a software company. It was a small company, like 8 people. And I did that for 7 or 8 months, and I decided that was not good. And then I became a contractor at Silicon Graphics and did a port of Doom to a set-top box. That was relatively challenging for my skill level at that time. And then the next thing I did was start a game company with my friend in 1996, which would have been when I was like 24 and a half. So when I was 22, I was not exactly on the best track, but within the next 2 years, I had transitioned to super challenging things. Yeah, you know what? We're going to make it S64, but we're going to put a comment that before we go to public release, if messaging is too slow, we can cut it down. Perhaps the nodes will have better packing if you pad it out to 8-byte integers. But 4 4-byte integers is 16 bytes, which is plenty of packing, right? When you say the AST will be used for 20 years, what will it be used for? The only consequence I can see is if you want to use 64-bit later, is that AST manipulation code will need to be compiled. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, I don't know exactly how it's going to be used because people are going to, we're going to have like a generic serialization function, for example, that'll just serialize a syntax tree or a type info or whatever. And people will probably do that along with metadata about the code. But we're certainly going to put a file format number in there, right? Because we're not dumb. So hopefully anyone else who rolls their own would like put a file format number in, and then you can upgrade. So it may not be that bad. There's got to be some awesome data structure for storing the mapping of byte index to line number. Yeah, maybe. You know what? I'm gonna just make it S64 right now, but I'm gonna put a performance note because that's the way I am. Whoops. Yeah. I don't need to put that there. I need to put that in the user-facing comment. We need to go to compiler. No, preload. Wait, that's in type info struct? Why am I doing that? Okay, this one isn't so critical because it's type info struct. I guess we do that to aid with debugging or something. The one that is critical is messenger, which we haven't got to, but this is the syntax tree node here. I don't know. It's kind of lame to make these 64 when they're not really 64 behind the scenes. Do I make it 64 or 32? I am torn on this topic. That's 32 bytes for line numbers. 32 bytes back when I had a Commodore 64 and a 300 baud modem, you would see them download like this. "32 bytes is a lot of data. Oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. Here's my logic. I'm going to make them 32 bits because there is a performance cost of some kind. And assuming this language is successful, there will be many, 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 many compiles run. And those compiles, if they're 0.01% faster, which that even may be an overestimate, but if they're 0.01% faster, if you do 1 million compiles, that's significant, right? Why am I using line number offset number and not byte offset in file? Because error reporting wants line number offset number. Your editor wants line number offset number so you can jump to a line, I assume. Maybe it wants byte number in file. I mean, it's just, you would have to map that back. It's not useful to anything, right? Like if you're just chilling, if you're just some dude and you're like, I've got a meta program that prints out some things about my stuff. What you care about is the line number as an everyday programmer. You don't care about the byte index in the file. And if I force you to map that line number to a byte index in the file, that just makes this harder to use and more annoying and slower probably. It's true. If it's successful, then the community will find ways you haven't even thought of to speed it up. Okay, I'm going to make it 32. I've vacillated on this several times. I'm going to make it 32. And we're going to explain why in the user-facing header file. All right. So I've got to go to compiler and go to type info struct. Oh, wait, that's in preload? Yeah. It is done. Do I still have my comment in the cut buffer? Yes. Okay, so. Okay. Don't you need byte offset to decode UTF-8? Otherwise, you have to seek from beginning to find line column. Yeah. Well, it is. The character indexes are byte offset. All the information, I know, I realize all the information is there in a byte offset. It's just harder to use. It's just harder to use. I don't know. I mean, these are stuff we can change. I will also say pseudonym 73 in chat is suggesting using a single byte offset into byte offset instead of line character pair. This would require decoding that line. Well, here's the thing. The ironic thing is for something like error reporting, it's actually faster. It's faster to find the line, right? Because you can seek backwards from that byte to the preceding carriage return. And you don't have to count lines from the beginning. The problem is then you still don't know what line you're on to tell people what line you're on. And we all use line numbers. For decoding that by some process that computes the line character, it may be better, though, consider this. But we're just doing this for now. And if this is wrong, we'll change it. Messenger.h, code node, and okay, well that's going to barf a lot. Just exploring the design space, yeah. It's true. Store both byte offset in line and character, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, once we get all this working, we may realize we want other capabilities, right? Maybe when we have this interfacing with an editor, we decide we do want byte offset because for some reason of functionality, it's better. Like, I don't know. So yeah, my style when I don't totally know is just to get in there and make something and see how it works. That tactic has worked great for the programming language as a whole so far. I've ended up with something that I really like from a place of starting with not very many ideas, except I'm unhappy with C++. So that's great. Okay, type table. I think most compilers will optimize this into at least 2 read writes if you're on a 64-bit machine. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't count on that, but again, we can optimize it later when we get into that. Okay. Type info struct member. We put that on members also? Interesting. All right. Fine. We can do that. Oh, I'm not sure why we do that, but it's okay. Okay. We're up to typer.cpp, show error context. Extracting a character number out of the byte offset is trivial. It is the line number in byte. I'm calling it the character index, which is maybe not the right thing. It's the byte offset into the line. Okay. 1890. Not 189. See, like I would save a certain amount of time if I even just used MetaX compile in Emacs and could just jump straight to the line number. Like it costs me 5 or 10 seconds every single error. It's just, that's how little patience I have for any of this anymore, is I'm not even willing to set that up. It's very sad. Just, that's how much I hate computers. All right. Show error context. All right, so we're going to go L0, C0. All right, I hope WD is something good. Why do I not have an overload for that? That's so weird. I'm going to make an overload. Show error context overload, because otherwise we're going to have to put 4 parameters on all of these. And they're the same 4 parameters, 5 parameters. All these parameters are just the, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Like I wouldn't have this problem. Fucking Emacs. Actually, I probably would have that problem. Okay. Parser. All right. Okay, well, set location info from Lexer. I guess. Well, let's just say those are unset. When do we do this? All the time. Because this set ask line info gets called all over the damn place. From token. from tokamak reactor. That could be screwy. We'll see. Maybe I should have made these a struct and just done a struct assignment. Well, we can always do that later if we want it. Okay, there's not many files left. Interp 590. I guess I'm going to make a report VA list overload as well. I don't know, man. Maybe not. We got so many weird overloads of report whatever. So all this work, and we still will not have something that prints out a range, but at least the information will be propagating sort of through the system. Not really, because it's not still the hierarchical propagating through the agglomerations as you go up the syntax tree will not be there yet. But for simple stuff like identifiers, we should have the full range once we're done with this. Whatever, I'll put this down here. I'd like to figure out a way to structure all my reports. I mean, maybe just the first parameter is the kind of report, and I can get rid of all my... Yeah, okay. We're getting down. We're getting down now. This has been enough changes that, assuming this runs reasonably, I'm going to check it in. Because, man, it's a lot of edits. All right. All right, well, that's not anything. That's not anything. Print disassembly, all right. Wait. That's not an L0, that's a line number. Okay. Man, I'm hungry today. Is it really the last file? Really the last file? All right. Wait. Okay, well, there's more files. Just when you thought you were out of the game, they pull you back in. Do you know why the pointer indicator is next to the variable name and not the type? What is the reason for it? Esoteric reasons. I assume you mean in C++. Oh, you mean for my typing the C++ style? It's just because that's what it really is in C++. Like some people do this, like that, but they're actually fooling themselves. That's not how the compiler looks at it, and you get into cases where it causes confusion. It's just better to admit that this is what it is and then go program in a different language when you have the chance. Bytecode runner. Sounds like a 70s anime. It totally does. Yeah, so Elevid has a good example there about if you're declaring two things, you put the pointer in both, which you wouldn't do if it was part of the type. This is making me nervous, but okay. Sure makes the code look shorter. Okay, explain. Sometimes I just feel like, yeah, I should have just done a global search and replace on this stuff rather than think it through, or at least, but I don't know, there's some discipline about forcing yourself to look at every line, even if after a while you're just kind of drooling and automatically replacing. It's just, wow, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Type table packer. That's a whole thing we get to go revise at some point. Okay, wait. That I was drooling and replacing. But this is one that we actually need. We're serializing the struct here. This is, remember how struct member had those things? So first of all, they're not 8Bs, they're 4Bs. If I don't do this right, programs crash. So that's a reason to not auto search and replace, because I actually woke up for a second and noticed. Okay, same here. This is for the struct itself. Well, like that could be, if you didn't know that that was a potential issue and you were maybe not super familiar with the compiler, you could spend hours debugging that mistake. In fact, I probably have debugged similar mistakes for hours before and might have today if I hadn't seen it. All right. So what are we doing now? Line 218. It's just a print statement, not important. That is a paste. Oh my God. Okay, who wants to put money on whether we can successfully run or not? I have no idea. If I'm pessimistic, I say we crash because I just, let's see. Oh, the user code. Sorry, the user code now also needs to change. We're not done. Ha, you thought you were done? No, user code. User code. This I'm just going to search and replace. So even this compiler report error is going to need to change. It's going to need an overload or something. Metadata. Oh my God. Does it run? It runs. Good thing I didn't do that global search and replace, because I'd probably still be debugging right now. Oh, we've got some tests that got to change. Maybe a lot of them. Line number. Oh, that's broken. Huh. Huh. It's activating when there's only one. So we're going to have to look at that. But let's get them all building first. Line number is not a member of code type instantiation. Oh, program print. I should use quick lambdas more. They're cool. They're cool. Look at that, man. That's so cool. All right, chess. What about Blobman? What about Blobman? Blobman does not have a similar thing. Okay. Good. So we just got to go do this warning now. Okay. If L0 is equal to L1 and C1 is equal to C0, we already said for one character operator, it should be +2, right? The confusing thing is these C1 and C0s okay, what am I even looking at? So it's a unary operator. We get those, we eat those. We peek a token. We get those, we eat those. We parse an expression. We don't really need to do this. Okay. So if it's a minus and there's an operator expression on the right and it's the same token type, I don't understand that. I mean, is it, we're seeing this and this? So are these ending up 0 or are they both ending up -1 or something? That's the only explanation I have. Because those are a lot of characters apart. Fuck you. GDPR requires you to remove your line numbers from AST. Oh, look, I've got some asserts. Good thing I didn't. Token, right. I love how it puts that on assert. Like, so stupid. The assert is not the problem there, people. Okay, so we're going to break. So operator overloading does it. So if I go run tests, There we go. We get a bunch of that. Wait. No. Not run tests. We go this way. There we go. So there we're just building operator overloading. And we're seeing it a bunch. So let's debug this. Okay. All right. Well, L0, 80, L1, let's get off hex. C1, 18, C0, 17. Really? $17. Why is it 18 for this? Well, this is interesting because I don't know why it's that way right now, but it's going to be that way eventually because L0 is going to be the leftmost part of the thing, right? So I don't know why this is behaving this way right now, but it's the way it will behave when it's correct. So well, we just make sure this is unary, right? And not right op arrow left. If it's a unary operator, there's no left branch. They use the same structure as binary. Okay, well, that works. And then let's make sure the error message still works by going to our test 2 and saying y minus minus. No, minus minus y, right? Unable to parse a statement. Why is that? That's weird. I mean, maybe we never parsed minus minus like that. Maybe it only is plus plus. Okay. That's fine. I'm not too picky about what error we give right now. I think the Lexer is... the Lexer never produces minus minus like that because we have this triple dash, you know, token. So we only do single dash or triple dash. So this is just in here to speculatively cover the case if we ever change our mind. This part, the plus plus obviously works. All right, so there we go. There we go. And run tests. It's looking good. It's looking good. Okay, and then so it's still putting it at the end, which I'm not surprised at because we didn't semantically change anything in theory. We just changed variable names and added an ending range, but like it looked like we were, when we were editing the Lexer, like this should be at the start. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm not sure what's going on, But we are going to check in. Lots of changes to support. Ranges of token locations for better. Okay. No. Why are people working on things? Oh my God. All right, well, let's update Sokoban also. Let's see if anything, user code. Bam. All right, well, let's see if the compiler compiles while we're running it. Well, let's do a full rebuild just in case. Why does the language not have the minus minus and plus plus operators? Well, because I'm going for simplicity a little bit. And like those operators are not really that useful, and they actually cause problems in C++ anyway. People like them stylistically, but that's just because they grew up with them. And the thing is, if when you make a new thing, if you just start copying the old thing everywhere, then you just end up with the old thing. So my idea was, well, let's just not do those. And see, like one of the main places you use those in C and C++ is in for loops. And you don't manually increment the iterator in for loops here usually. So right there, that goes away, for example. Why do I still use SVN over Git Mercurial? Yes, I have many rants about that. We need to make Insobot link to the rant or one of the rants. Oh boy. Well, I'm tempted just to leave it here without the full functionality just because I'm tired. I mean, that's a little bit not giving people closure on the stream, but it's been 2 hours and it's late at night. This might be enough for tonight, and then maybe tomorrow morning I come back and start actually making this get all the way to the output. Like the next step would be to make those error reporting routines use the full range. And then we'll see why the range is starting at the end, because they'll obviously do something incorrect and we'll fix it. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming to the stream. Assuming I wake up at a reasonable hour tomorrow, we will pick up here where we left off. And according to my notes, one of the first things I'll probably do is change that show error context thing so that it has an overload. Or maybe just the main version takes a syntax tree node. Let's look at that. Let's look at that, I said. Show error context. That's just one of the, it's an explicit, like, hey, I want to see these lines in the file, just like when the compiler automatically reports that for an error. And load line and character is like used to be a full specification of a location because we only had line and character. But now if we pass, like, where do these come from? Oh, that's report VA list. Okay. Well, maybe when we get down this low, it needs to be split up. So maybe we have one version that's just like this, but takes 2 more parameters. And then we have the version that we call from the higher level code all the time. And for all of these, we're just passing a syntax tree node. So all of this could just say it, right? So we'll do that. All right, thanks everyone for stopping by. Let's host somebody again. We've had a good time hosting people. Programming 267. Taking it easy tonight. The dark souls of coding. No, I'm sorry. If you're working in Unity, you're just not doing the dark souls of programming. It's just not. You're doing like the I want to be the guy of programming, but that's different. That's not the dark souls of programming. Senior software engineer in action. Open source JavaScript macros edutainment. 903 days. Is that the name of a project, or is it I've been working 903 days on the same thing? I just don't know what any of this is. We could host this Russian math with some. Is that? Are those dells? No, those are. That's like pi over 6. Oh, that's elementary basic shit. Okay. Never mind. I thought it was like some vector calculus because it looks a little blurry. It looks like big dells with like vectors over them. And I'm like, okay, we could do that. But no, that's not what those are. Cosine pi over 6 is not very exciting. No, it's not that I want to be the guy is easier than Dark Souls. It's that I want to be the guy is like a 2D game with not that good controls and is also very painful. Okay, who do we host? Or do we go, let's check game developers. I don't want to watch anime. H1 level design breakdown. That's not game development. I mean, maybe, unless that's one of the H1 developers. Anyone see anything here that is better. Dark Souls Unity guy seems like the guy. The second one looks good. Oh, yeah. All right, we're gonna do Dark Souls Unity guy, even though that's just not. It's not an accurate. Okay, the fact that I am hosting this does not mean that I endorse the idea of working in Unity, having anything, etc. Okay. Here we go.